Okay, looks like we are live and on the air, and it's with a topic that drives both Kimberly Burnham and myself nuts, and it's grammar, those little itchy, picky points of grammar that make us crazy. And I'm sure that we are not the only two people who have grammatical challenges. So I am with my business partner, Kimberly Burnham, and we have the Creating Calm Network Publishing Group. Kimberly, how are you today?
I'm good, and you know, I'm excited for today's topic because I practice complementary medicine, right? And so I'm always writing complementary, complementary, and sometimes I get confused and I think, wait a minute, is that an E after the L or is it an I after the L? You know, complement and complement. I mean, really, they sound the same, but complementary medicine with an I is very different than complementary medicine with an E after the L. And so I did some research for today's show that I'll be sharing about that.
Right, and for me, I'm going to be sharing my mongoose story on why I can say to authors, just mongoose your sentence. And I might as well, this would be a good time to even say the mongoose story. Kimberly, do you know the mongoose story?
No, I don't.
Okay, so there were these hunters, and they were out in the field, and one wanted to say, there are a bunch of mongooses coming out of the field or out of the pond, and they didn't know, is it mongoose, mongai, mongeese, mongee? So he said to his buddy, because he wanted to be grammatically correct, of course, as all hunters do, and he said to his buddy, here came one mongoose, followed quickly by another, followed quickly by another, because he didn't know how to do the plural and didn't want to look it up. So he changed his whole sentence. Followed quickly by another, followed quickly by another. So if you don't know, like for me, I have trouble with lay and lie. So oftentimes I go repose. So I've mongoosed my sentence because I can't figure out, I don't want to look it up, so I'll just go recline, and that is how you mongoose a sentence. Here comes one goose, followed quickly by the other.
Right.
So that's my mongoose story.
Around so that you don't have to use the word that's confusing. I certainly have done that before. And I just want to...
Do you know the plural of mongoose?
Well, if you go by geese, goose and geese, then it would be mongoose. But I believe that it's mongooses.
I'm just going to say, here comes one followed by his friend.
Yes, there you go. And
why do you even think grammar is so important? Do you think in America we've gotten lazy with grammar? Do we care as much as we were, when we were in school, it was probably beat upon us, or I know a lot of these things my mother taught me, but it seems like people are getting looser with their grammar, but I think in publishing it is still a crucial deal breaker.
Yes, and I agree, and I think that part of it is people's biases, and I think that still, I agree with you that people are a little bit looser with their grammar and maybe not such sticklers for exactly having every piece correct. But we have also in a Word document, for example, you have a setting that allows you to highlight a sentence where the grammar is not quite right, and so we have options of how to kind of check ourselves and find out. But what I was saying about bias is that I think that when we use poor grammar, we look less educated, and I think that there's definitely a bias against people who are not very well educated, and maybe that doesn't matter to you. Maybe, you want to write the way that you want to write and express things the way that you want to express. But I do think that there is still a bias against people whose level of education isn't as high as the average, or, there's that show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? But I think most of us have an expectation that people are smarter than fifth graders, and that your grammar should reflect that. And so I think it's very important, and it helps us to reach a greater audience.
Right. And you know, the other part with that bias, and I have to say I'm very prejudiced, I guess, against grammatical mistakes. You know, people can make one. I make many, I'm sure, but you know, we always try to take the upper level. And lately on Facebook, I have been seeing authors who have made this one grammatical mistake I'm going to share with you, and it just, I think, they should know better. So it kind of turns me thinking, where's their editor? And here they're posting something, and it would be something like, Kimberly and me went to the Art Institute. Or here is a picture of Kimberly and I. But it really, those are both wrong. And how I learned it was you take out the other person. So you wouldn't say, here is a picture of I. You take out the other person, and then it reflects that this is a picture of me. So you'd never say Kimberly and I in that sense. Here's a picture of Kimberly and I. Or saying, what did I say, Kimberly and me went to the Art Institute. If I took out Kimberly, I wouldn't say me went to the Art Institute. Right. So that helps me know that Kimberly and I went. So I think that's what my mother taught me, is always take out the other person and see what the sentence looks like with me and I. And I was surprised. Lately I've just been seeing a rash of those kind of mistakes. So you would say, Kimberly and I went to the store. That is correct. But we wouldn't say, Maeve invited Kimberly and I over for dinner, because if I take out the people, you wouldn't say Maeve invited I over for dinner. She invited
Right. And I think that brings us to one idea with grammar, is that often people check it by how it sounds. Mm-hmm. And I think with that particular grammatical piece, sometimes the incorrect way, it sounds more correct. And I think sometimes it sounds more correct because it's in more common usage, but it's still incorrect. So that if you say...
Here's what sounds. I think this would be one. Will you take my brother and I to the movies? That doesn't sound too bad to me. But then if we took out my brother, will you take I to the movies?
Right, you can't.
So it would be, will you take my brother and me to the movies? But the other one sounded okay, I thought.
Right, and that's what I mean, is that with that, both ways sounds correct. And sometimes, to me, with that particular example, sometimes the correct way doesn't sound quite right to me. And so I need to use that same trick of take the other person out, and then see how does it sound, because when I take the other person out, then I think the correct way always sounds correct to me, but
right. So that's a good one. So here we have a rule with the I's and the me's. Take the other person out, say your sentence, see if it sounds correct with the other person gone, and that would be the grammatical rule. Kimberly, complimentary. How would you ever remember that? How do you get to know that?
Well, I've really just memorized it because I write complementary medicine, complementary and alternative medicine so often in what I'm writing, because that is my field of expertise, that I've just memorized that the one that I want usually is with an E. But I also have this book, The Dictionary of Word Origins, and in preparing for today's show, I looked up complement and complement. And it says here, complement, P-L-I-M-E-N-T, and complement, P-L-E-M-E-N-T, so often confused, are in effect doublets. They come from the same ultimate source. And I think that a lot of words that we get confused, some anyway, of words that we get confused do come from the same origin. They come from Latin complementum, and it means to fill up or finish. And then English borrowed complement with that C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T directly from Latin to mean fulfillment or accomplishment. And it goes on to say that later on it gradually took on compliment with an I, took over from complement with an E to mean flattering or to praise, a polite word of praise.
And you could remember that. I always like to have a way to remember it. If I'm complimenting you, maybe I see it with my eye that you need a compliment, or that I'd like to compliment because of my eye, so that I could be complete with the eye, with that word. So that's
right.
compliment with an eye if I say something nice about you.
Or you could think of it, a compliment, meaning to praise somebody, to compliment someone, is a polite word, and you can think of the I in polite going with compliment.
Okay.
Good. Saying something positive about someone, and complementary, like as in complementary medicine, you can think of it as it completes something. Complete, obviously, with an E. And
I love those little kind of things that help you remember.
Phonics, yes. It was interesting to me to look at some of the other words that come from this same word place. Accomplishment, complement, complete, comply, plenary, and plenty. So plenty also comes from this sense of completeness, of many. Yeah, so that was kind of interesting to me to look at that and to think about, because that's a word that I commonly use, and I have used it incorrectly before, and people have pointed out to me that no, I need an E instead of an I.
And if you're a complementary medicine, what a very fine medicine you are today.
Yes, we could invent something else. It could be complementary with an I medicine, and that's where you just go around complimenting people, and you say such nice things to them that they feel better, and they actually get healthier because you're saying such nice things to them. That could be the other kind of
kindness. We'll have complementary medicine with the I.
Complementary, yes, yes.
Yeah, my next one is one that, again, my mother taught me, and it was, she would say, whenever you have the word if, you would go to the plural instead of the singular, even though you're talking about yourself, like, if I were a rich man, if I were a carpenter. And when I was Googling to see a way to explain it, there were so many times it was used wrong, like, if I was... and I guess to many of us it sounds, if I was rich, I would buy lots of shoes. That doesn't sound real bad, but because of the if and the singular, it's a subjective. So you would say, if I were rich, I would buy lots of shoes. And so we have to look at the subjective mood. So it would be things like, if I were you, I would phone him, because I'm not you. So I would say, if I were, not if I was. And that's one that I think it's kind of a sticky little grammatical point, but I catch it all the time. I'll hear it, But there's an also thing called the simple past. You could say, if I was you, I would phone him. That's not entirely wrong, but it's not the higher standard of the subjective. So if I were you, I would phone him. If I were rich, I would buy lots of shoes. If I were a rich man, I would diddly-diddly-dee and yell tradition or something.
Right. Well, that's the thing. We can go to music to remember that one. If I were a rich man, if I were a carpenter, the song lyrics we can go to.
About 50% of the songs say "if I was," and I'm thinking, there you have it.
Really? Oh, okay.
I don't know. Did you ever get hung up, or did you ever think of why you would use a plural with "if I," or did you always know that one?
I don't know. To me, it doesn't sound correct to say "was," so. So I don't find that I have trouble with that one.
Yeah, one of the other examples they said too is that you would say, if I were at work now, I'd be eating a waffle, because you're not at work now, so you say if I were, and then the past tense, when I was at work, I ate waffles.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's one of my bugaboos. What's another one that is a bugaboo for you?
Well, affect and effects.
I never, ever have gotten those right.
I know. I think that most of the time now I can get it correct, and part of it is, again, I'm going to my word origin book, and it has both affect and effect in here, and it is a little bit confusing in terms of where the word came from, because the word affect spelled with an A can mean simulate insincerely. So to say something insincerely, to have an affect, is typically seen as a negative thing. But it also says to have an effect on. So if something affects something else, it has an effect on it.
I mongoose that every time, Kimberly. Every time I get to affect or effect, I got to mongoose it.
Yes. I think partly effect is more common. So if you go with effect with an E, you're more likely to get it correct, because I think it's more often correct. When you talk about the effect of something, that I think is pretty straightforward. We don't really, I mean, to me, we don't really say the effect of something. We say the its effect. And I'm trying to think, like, when I get hung up with that, because I don't really anymore. I've kind of memorized that one.
You know what's nice? You had said, too, in Word, if you were in the Word document and you had that in a sentence and asked to highlight it, would it give you the correct?
Yes, it tells you, it'll underline it in red, it'll underline the phrase or the part of the sentence in red that that's not correct. And I think most of us have spell check just normally on in our documents. But you can also set grammar to be on, so that it will highlight anything that's, a grammatical error.
And, one of the things about this computer age, which is very different than when I first started writing, is that even in preparing for this show, I would look up just the issue I was having trouble. I put if I were, if I was in the Google search, and lots of information on the best way to do it. Some was confusing and some was very clear. And so I think as writers, there's really no reason for us to make a grammatical mistake. We need to be aware of where our weaknesses are.
Right.
And double check and look them up. So I know that there are certain things I always need to look up, like affect, effect. And the one I'm learning for today is, I'm going to share lay and lie. Again, look it up. But I was amazed at the resources just online. Before I used to have a grammatical book I would check, but probably a whole page of grammar blogs, grammar experts, grammar Nazis, things would come up. And so it's pretty a good time to be a writer, I think.
The other trick that I'll share that I use sometimes is, in a Word document, there's the little, you can get synonyms. And so sometimes I'll look up what's the synonym for the word that I've put in there to see, and then sometimes it'll have synonyms, and I'll be like, oh, no, that's not the word that I wanted, and then I'll put in the other word, so that complement with an I and with an E, if you hit that synonym button, what will come up, if it says compliment, it might say praise, or
you've got the wrong
that. where complement with an E, it'll come up and it'll say complete or finish or add to, or something like that. And so sometimes that's just a trick that I use sometimes.
Even within the document, which is nice. What I'm suggesting is going and doing a search, but within the document, you're able to fix a mistake.
Right, and for some of those, like, some of them, there are no synonyms for the word that I'm trying to figure out, in which case I would look online. But that's just a trick sometimes that I'll use, is I'll go to the synonym section, and that can be a good thing. If you want to mongoose your sentence, you can also use that. You can think, oh no, in the end I don't actually want to use that word. I'll mongoose the sentence, and I'll use one of the synonyms instead of the word that I was going to use, which can make your writing more interesting too, if you're not always using the same words.
Exactly. Exactly. I would hate to learn English as a second language, because even in looking up the one that I need to look up every time, and I often mongoose it just because I'm too lazy to look it up, the lay and the lie, I found this great chart, and this is a woman who has grammarbook.com blog, so she does have a book on the Blue Book of Grammar, but she made this chart. So if you're going to recline, you would L-I-E, or you would be lying, L-Y-I-N-G, which is really weird to me because it looks like you're going to fib, but if you were going to go recline in the presence, you would L-I-E, lie, or you would be lying, L-Y-I-N-G. If you did it in the past, you would lay, L-A-Y, and if you're going to put something in place, that's when you lay it, L-A-Y. And if you're going to tell a lie, you lie it. And I thought, wow, how would you like to learn that if it was your, if you were just trying to learn it as a second language? So you would say, I lie down for a nap at 2 o'clock every day, L-I-E. I lay down yesterday for a nap, L-A-Y. I lay down yesterday for a nap. That doesn't sound right to me.
No.
And then you would say, in the past, you could say, I have laid I have lain down every day, L-A-I-N, lain down. I have lain down. Now, if it's a book, you would say, I lay, L-A-Y, down the book. I laid down the book, or I have laid, L-A-I-D. Weird stuff. So I'm just going to go recline somewhere. Recline. I'm going to put the book down, and I'm going to recline on my bed.
Yeah, I saw a little cartoon one time, and it had this picture of this couple in bed, and the caption of it was lying in bed, and it said L-I-E in bed, right? And the man is saying, honey, of course I love you.
Yeah. So this one I think will stay on the list of things I have to look up, just like affect, effect. You have taught me complementary. So I think I got complimentary, but I think affect, effect, and lay and lie, I'm still going to be looking up.
Right.
Do you have any more? You had one other choose, or what was the other one you were thinking of?
Oh yeah, choose and chose and choice. Well, choice is pretty easy. But when I'm writing, I chose, and sometimes I don't know whether it's a spelling misunderstanding or an actual grammatical misunderstanding. But for me, I have a hard time knowing, do I put in one O or two O's if I say chose or choose. And so anyway, I looked it up, and chose with one O is in the past, and choose with two O's is in the present. So I choose is C-H-O-O-S-E, and I chose yesterday, C-H-O-S-E. So the past is just with one O, and the present is with two O's. And so I'm going to try and remember that now. But for some reason, I just, I know the words choose and chose. I know that chose is in the past and choose is in the present, but I have a hard time remembering which one has two O's.
Yeah, no, I would just hate to learn English. That's all I can say if I came from another country. How would you even explain it to somebody? Even with Writer's Toolbox, I had to pause because is it for one writer, which is how we write it, the writer for one writer, apostrophe S. If we meant writers for all of us, we'd have to put our apostrophe in a different place. So, that's why I had to think of it. It is for a writer, and it is their toolbox. So the S has the apostrophe before it.
Right. I mean, we could have used either one is correct, but it just depends on what we mean. And yeah, I totally understand about learning English. I'm so grateful that I learned English as my first language, because it is, said to be one of the most difficult languages as a second language. And part of it is, the grammar and all of the exceptions, because, I speak Japanese, and with Japanese, this is the rule, period. This is the rule, pretty much. And, it's a little bit of a complex language, and they do have some honorific things that make it more complicated. But pretty much their rules are, this is the rule. Where in English, we have, this is the rule, except in this, and this, and this, and this, and this case. And so I think that's one of the things that makes it difficult, but also is an indicator of level of education. Like, how much effort have you put into learning what the correct grammar is?
Yeah.
And, do you speak and write English good, or do you speak and write English well?
That's a good one. Can you speak that, or there a way to remember that one?
For me, it just never sounds correct to say I speak English good, or I speak good English. Good English sounds better to me, but I speak English good, it just doesn't sound correct to me. And so it's easy for me to remember that when it's after the thing that you're speaking about, typically you would say, well, I speak English well.
Yeah. And you know what you say to a grammar person who's having to come apart? You wrap them and you go, there, there, there. Anyway,
right.
One of the reasons we chose this, and next week, Kimberly and I are talking about doing just the origin of words, where some words come from and the fun things of words, is because part of being a writer is our love for language. And that's why this show on grammar wasn't meant to be all and end all on grammar. It was just to sort of share some of the things that have tripped us up, to have you think and be aware as a writer of what trips you up, and just to know that this is a great time in our lives to be writers because of all the internet resources we have, whether it's even, like Kimberly was saying, the Word document that'll just help you out, or just Google something, do a search. To come up with it. So we at the Creating Calm Network Publishing Group just have a blast with words. And Kimberly, you're going to have this up on our webpage, so if you would share with some of our listeners about the webpage and all of the things that they can find by looking at the Creating Calm Network Publishing Group's webpage.
Right. I think that this is our 6th show. And last week we talked about anthologies and what the value of being in an anthology is. And you can listen to all of those shows, watch all of those shows on our website, www.creatingcalmnetworkpublishinggroup.com. And so certainly these Writer's Toolbox episodes are there. We have a lot of information on different writing contests, poetry contests, and certainly we help writers all the way from the idea to bringing that idea into reality. of how do you actually write a book and get it written and get, really express your ideas. And then once you've written it and had it edited, what do you do? How do you navigate publishing? And really, that's what we help people do, is to navigate that writing process, navigate the publishing process, and then really, how do you reach those people who are going to be interested and benefit and learn from what you've expressed, what you've learned in your life. And so all of that information is on our website under the Toolbox. We have an authors section. We have a book section of books that we're currently working on, or ones that we've published recently. So lots of fun things over there.
Also, too, you're going to be speaking, and I'm not sure if I'm speaking, I'll have to double check, but you for sure, to Christine Closer's Next Wave. And there's information on our website on how you can get connected to that. And if Kimberly, you can share what you're going to be talking about. But it's Christine Closer who has put together the anthology 3-4 waves ago that Kimberly and I met each other, called Pebbles in the Pond. And now she's doing another one and gathering authors and transformational people to share their story. But I think that information is right on our website. And Kimberly, do you want to talk about what you're speaking about? And it's going to be the 27th, right?
Right.
Yes, May 27th.
Yeah, the call that I'm going to be speaking on, it's a private call for just for people who are in Wave 3 of Pebbles in the Pond.
So they're already committed.
So yes, they're already involved, and they've already, I think, written their chapters, and that book is about to be published.
Right.
But what there's also information about is Christine Closer's Transformational Author Experience, her big event. It's an annual event now, where she gathers just incredible resources on people that talk about the writer's journey, and that's a free program, and you can connect up on our website to get over there and sign up, and that's starting right away. So you want to do that.
Oprah's favorite people, Panache, I forget, slipping my mind, but that starts today as well, and there's, what, 22 hours or 22 guests of programming?
Yeah, a ton of things, and it's all free, so you might as well jump on there. And the link is, I'll put it right below this this video on our website, so that you can get connected up to that as well.
That sounds
and just as a little teaser at the end of this program, I'll say that that in English, the word oct, it means 8, right? Oct. But if you look at October, it's not the 8th month. We'll talk about why next week.
Okay.
So listen in.
Okay. I won't even do research. I'll let you surprise me next week. And one of the things we try to do, which is why we are in the process of saying goodbye, is keep these to less than 30 minutes because we know you're busy. So keep writing, keep reading, keep enjoying words. Thank you, Kimberly, for being with us. And we will see you next week. And check out www.creatingcalmnetworkpublishinggroup.com and just have fun playing with all of the information there. Take care.
Okay, bye.